So now we're at one of the most important stages of this process. We've already had the interior designer in. Nicole has done a great job, furniture's in place, the attention to detail is phenomenal. Now we need to capture that for our online audience. For that, I brought in professional photographer Andy Tree. See, throughout this whole series, we've brought in the professionals to capture those experiences and to add those final little details that make a huge difference. Yes, I can pick furniture that should look good, but putting it in the right placement, adding the right little details really makes the difference.
My job is to capture that experience that the three of you have created it and that I'm able to experience now that I'm in the space and show it to anyone looking at your rental online. So while you're a pretty good photographer yourself,
Thank you.
I know when you go to photograph this room, you're going to be capturing the space. What I'm going to be doing differently is I'm going to capture the experience. And it's that experience that makes a difference when someone's viewing your rental compared to other rentals online. If I can sell the experience, if I can show them how wonderful it will feel to stay here, then there's no doubt about it. They're going to book yours instead of someone else's. And with my experience, that's what I'm going to bring to the table.
Seems well worth it if it makes the difference between booking with us versus someone else.
In a moment, Rob and I are both going to go photograph the same space, and I'll have all of the photos for you to compare. He's going to do it with both his cell phone and his SLR, and I'm going to be using all of my equipment. I'm hoping you'll be able to see the benefit and experience that I bring, but I think you'll try and give me a run for my money.
My goal is to make my photos be better than his.
All right, let's get to it. Now that the photos are done and I've got them on my computer, let's compare some of Rob's to some of mine. Now while we both photographed the entire house, I'd like to focus on 3 rooms really to just kind of illustrate some of the differences. So first up, we're going to start with one of the bedrooms, and we're starting here with one of Rob's cell phone photos. And honestly, this is a nice photo. I could see this and have no problem. I can tell that this bed is nice and comfortable. I honestly don't see anything wrong with this picture. Now we're moving on to one of his SLR photos of this room, and where it has a wider angle, you're able to actually see out the window, and you can see that you have beautiful views of nature, which is a real selling point. Unfortunately, it was taken a little too far back, and the flash from his camera is being caught here on the edge of the door frame on either side, and that's also creating some kind of ugly shadows here. Now, while we can probably correct for that with enough editing, it really does take away from the feeling of this photo, and I actually still kind of like his cell phone photo a little bit better. Moving on to my own photograph, I used my even wider angle lens to really capture the entire room and make it feel nice and spacious. By using elements like the mirror on the wall, I'm able to really focus that window that with the beautiful views as kind of one of the center points of this room, and also just show how large and inviting that it is. Looking between all 3 of them again, we've got Rob's cell phone in the upper left, Rob's SLR photo in the upper right, and my photo down below. I would choose between the cell phone and my own. Of course, I'm going to be a little biased towards my own. But you let us know what you think. Now we're taking a look at the living room, and we're starting again with Rob's cell phone photo. Unfortunately, with such a bright window in the background, it's really throwing off and making the rest of the room look very dark. Now this is actually one of the darker corners of the room itself, and we really want to avoid it feeling dark. Again, this is something that we can edit to improve a little bit, but it really doesn't convey the feeling that you want for the living room area. Next, we'll move on to Rob's SLR photo, which does give much more balanced lighting. this time showing nice and evenly. You do lose all the detail from outside the window, which we could correct with some advanced techniques, but overall it does give a better sense of the space itself. Now we're going to move on to my photo, and to really show the comfort of kind of the living room area, I've actually chosen not to go as wide angle as possible, and really get in here and close and make it look like a comfortable space to watch the TV, focusing in and making the fireplace a little bit larger so you can really get a sense that when you're done for the day and you're relaxing here, that this is a warm, comfortable space, still showing that there's nice views of nature without, that being the focal point in this room necessarily. Again, I'm going to compare all three of them with Rob's cell phone in the upper left, Rob's SLR in the upper right, and my photo here. Again, this showing the living room area. Next up, we're going to show the dining room, and once again, I'm starting with Rob's cell phone photo. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. One thing in all interior photography that you have to pay attention to is the vertical lines. If you pay attention over to this wall along here, and these walls over here, you see that the lines are not perfectly straight. And that's one thing, anytime you angle your camera upwards or downwards, it starts to create these converging lines. The verticals only remain truly vertical when your camera is perfectly leveled. It's something that the wider lens you use becomes more and more pronounced. I'm going to overlay a grid right now, and you can really tell just how these verticals are not staying straight. This isn't something that you necessarily pick up on consciously, but your subconscious mind, when you see lines, when you see walls and you know they're vertical, and then you see them in a photograph and they're not, it kind of subconsciously throws you off, and that's something we really want to be careful of. Moving next onto his SLR photo, again, this gives a nice view. My only real complaint with it, again, where the verticals are a little unaligned, but it's less pronounced in the cell phone photo. But this kitchen feels very small when it's taken from this angle. Really, I can't tell if there's any additional counter space in what I see right here. And it's really just not giving me the feeling of what it would be like to cook in his space. So next I'm moving on to my own angle. I'm making sure that the dining area is in the forefront here, but then I'm also showing the entire cooking area. And see, from this angle I can actually tell, if I were considering staying here, that I have access to a microwave and a kettle and a coffee maker, which was kind of hidden when I was looking over here. And that's unfortunate because the amenities really do make a big difference. If you look at my vertical lines too, I've made sure that the camera's perfectly level so that every single one of these cabinets' vertical lines are vertical. And that's, again, it's not a big thing, but your subconscious mind picks up on it. So once again, I'm going to take a look at all three photos, with Rob's cell phone in the upper left, Rob's SLR in the upper right, and my own in the bottom. So this is just a small snapshot of three of the rooms and how we chose to photograph them, but I really hope that you can see some of the thought that goes into really taking a photo and making sure that you're considering what feeling it gives to someone looking at it. And my hope is that this really does contribute when you're comparing between two different rooms. If you're just shown, cell phone photos and then compared to really professionally well thought out photos, I really do hope that it makes a difference when it comes time for people to be choosing between Rob's and anyone else's. So Rob did pose a challenge that he wanted his photos to be better than mine. And it's not fair for me to be the judge of that, so please let us know in the comments who you think photographed the space better.
Alright, HGTV, get at us.